This is Percy Dovetonsils with a personal message for those of you listening to my new album. Hi. Or should I say hi-fi? I'm sitting here beside my Italian harpsichord with its genuine quill plucks. Behind me is a marble bust. Well, perhaps not a bust, but then it wasn't a complete success either. So now, greetings across your turntables, and with a little sip of my martini, Bruce, there's a fraction too much vermouth. Shall we begin?
I'm so glad I found your podcast and your site.
God, me
I was
too.
just like, where did this come from? These guys are holding up this Kovacs record. Like, this is so cool.
Yeah, that was.
I hope you liked the episode. It was a little weird and rambling, but like,
Yeah, that was because
this is a guy who really introduced me
Yeah,
to
well,
him, you know. So
Yeah, it's just we have like a weird family,
Yeah.
like because his chief engineer, when Kovacs was at WTTN, I think is what it's called, which is the original Jersey. That's when he first got on
Right,
there. He
right.
was selling cigars across the street.
Right.
That's what the story is.
Yeah.
And one day, someone had an audition. They were too nervous, so he just went in like whatever, because he was like crazy anyway.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay. So,
Yeah.
and but the chief engineer they did a lot of the work with owned the house that my grandparents bought it from, and he was there a lot, and that's why we think we have those weird slate things.
At some point, I'd love to talk to you about them because those sounds are really cool. It's just-
I haven't since.
But it's radio, right?
Yeah, it's radio. It would be radio. It would be back in the radio. And I have a theory of what they are,
Yeah.
but I haven't been able to fully inspect them because I haven't had to look at them
Right.
in a decade.
Right.
And then I haven't been back home since, we went. But my grandmother said, "Hey, you can take a look at them and see what you can do with them." But
There's not a lot of people that if they're air checks, which is what they might be, it sounds like if they're like big, I'm sure they're very like big and heavy.
right, they're huge.
Yeah, those are air checks because that's what that came off of, but it was from television.
Right.
Okay.
So what they used to do is essentially air checks, I guess, were if you were a sponsor or if you were the head of a corporation that was like spending a lot of money in advertising on a radio show or a television show, there were these companies that were out there that would basically, if you paid them, they would record it.
Yeah.
Over like an FM, I think and that's why these recordings are actually pretty good. Is that it was recorded over an FM band.
Oh, okay.
So the recording, I don't know that much about it, but
Right.
the recordings are actually pretty good. Even though people couldn't hear it on television that well, they were broadcast that well.
Right.
Yeah, they sound beautiful.
But so probably he was getting somebody to record like an air check just because he wanted to have some of these shows because they were going out and no one's ever going to hear from him again.
Right.
So, but we have like all these air checks. But the thing is, for television only.
Right.
But the thing is, they're getting harder and harder to find places that are actually going to transfer them because it's such old technology. And like they can still do it, but it's like you kind of have to find the right place, the right guy.
Right.
Usually an older dude that was around sort of or worked with the technology a little bit. Because every time you play it, it loses a generation. So whenever you play it, you want to make sure that you actually
you do it. You're not just running it over.
Well, I guess it's good that they've been sitting in your attic for 60 years because they probably haven't been touched.
No, they haven't been touched
So-
or played. And the only other theory that I have is I know from reading he did a lot of like on location stuff.
Oh yeah.
And they recorded that. I remember reading somewhere on this medium, which I have no idea what it is, but it was basically like wire. Like wire.
Right.
And it had the same concept as a magnetic tape.
Mm-hmm.
But it was actually on wire and it was really bulky. And that would be my only other guess is maybe it's like a Trenton High football game that he called or something completely random that he did on location, and that's the wire spool.
Right.
Because they're on like big film reels, the wire reels. I looked it up once.
Do they look like real, like film reels? Or
They kind of look like film reels from what I've seen online, and I don't know because I've never taken the actual media that's in my grandmother's attic out of the case.
Right.
But I know what these things look like is they're comparable in size, but of course I looked at a picture. But that's my best guess.
Right.
Either that or something like an air check. That makes even more sense. So
Hey, who knows?
it's a mystery.
When you know, let me know.
I'm going back in October, probably definitely first week because my cousin's getting married. So I'll actually be staying with my grandmother. So I'm going to be checking it out first week in November. Yeah, definitely. I mean that's on the agenda. Is we're gonna get up there and with my uncle and take a look at it and figure it out and see what it is.
I'm excited.
But they say they're heavy.
Yeah.
So if they're heavy, that might be that air check.
I think they're air checks.
Yeah.
Just in the way you, like on the podcast, describe them and what you're telling me. If they're really heavy and they're really big, they sound like air checks.
Yeah, they're huge and they're heavy. They're so heavy that, to be honest with you, I think they got left up there
because nobody wanted
because no one wanted to move them.
I can see that. Totally.
Yeah. I think that's what it was. And then just the way that also the way that my family is and granddad, like there's like 16 motorcycles in the yard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so the last thing we're gonna do is this might be
right.
This might be awesome. We're just gonna let it sit there for 60 years.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's totally on par.
You should also there's not that I want to hold this up anymore.
No. If you would tilt that back towards you a little. I'm already recording.
Oh, you are
a little bit.
Okay,
yeah. So
cool.
we'll move in from here.
All right. Yeah. There's also there's the Trenton Public Library, which I went to.
Okay.
And there's a thing called like Trentoniana or something. There's like a room that's just Trenton. And there's a woman there who is a librarian. She's great, and I have her name. I just can't remember it off the top of my head. But she's like the one person there that sort of like, preserves like Ernie and Trenton history.
Right.
And she's like really all about it. You should let her know about it too, because they have all the Trenton.
I will. I definitely will.
Newspapers.
Right.
For the Trentonian and all that kind of stuff, so they could probably figure out a way, like, when this was recorded, what it possibly was.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, definitely.
She's great.
I didn't know about her, so I'll have to check that out too.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
we've already started, everybody, but this is Comedy on Vinyl. This week, back with us is Adam Storm.
Hello.
And for first time, well, we have another cat in the room, but first time guest Josh Mills.
Hello.
We're very excited to have you. You contacted us after hearing the last Ernie Kovacs episode.
I did. I was kind of doing some just research on the internet or just looking around, and I saw two guys holding up an Ernie Kovacs record, and I was like, "What's this?" And it's great. I'm glad you guys even have the record. That's great.
Yeah, it was. I'm excited that I found it, and it was something weird to you, right, Storm? Because you'd never heard it.
I never even heard that record was published. And, that was a nice Christmas gift. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. But let's just start with your basic history. Sure. Obviously, your mother was Edie Adams, and in case you don't know out there, Edie Adams was obviously once married to Ernie Kovacs. And I'm sure there are plenty of stories because you're too young to have met him, right? It was different, right? He
died in 1962. I was born in 1968. So
I
grew up around Ernie, sort of omnipresent, constantly. Yeah. There were pictures and there was, I knew, but it was he wasn't my dad,
right?
But he was definitely there. I mean, Ernie was always talked about. So
yeah. Man, but you're basically the one in charge of both their estates, right? So you get to. You're the one who was in charge of getting this album out, this new album.
Yeah, I essentially my mom passed away in 2008, and I run her estate and Ernie's estate, and my mom was amazing in terms of being. She really was a pioneer in terms of saving this stuff.
Yeah.
Collectors and folks just really can't believe that anybody kept this. My mom's been paying storage on this for 50 plus years.
Yeah.
And now I'm paying for it. But happily, by the way. Mm-hmm. But my mom was great at preserving all this stuff. Mm-hmm. The issue was always that she held on to it really tightly, and her company Ediad Productions, which I now run. We're not Disney. We're not a big corporation. We don't have like a ton of money. But she would hold on to it very tightly. So there were things like these air checks, and there were things that were just in the archive that were just things that should be out there and people should be hearing. And I'm really happy that I can actually find people that want to put it out, find people that want to listen to it and hear it. So yes, it's exciting. It's great.
And we're talking about Percy Dovetonsils Thpeaks, and it's friggin' great. It's all Percy Dovetonsils stuff. Which, if you listen to the last episode, we talk. There's I don't remember how many clips are on the last album. Two or three. Three on the last one. Okay, but this is all Percy Dovetonsils. But it's not just. I mean, you said it's air checks, but there's also some clips from some other programs, right? That are not. Were not his.
Actually, at a certain point, probably 60, 61. A quote-unquote independent record label was interested in putting out an Ernie Kovacs record, and he talks about it. And actually, in in October, Shout Factory is going to put out a Ernie Kovacs Collection Volume 2, and there is a great 17-minute interview with the CBC in Canada on television where he talks about this. And he talks about a lot of things, but he talks about this record specifically, and how he doesn't like records that are like stand-up records where someone gets on a stage and does stuff, and he wanted to do his own thing, and it's kind of interesting to see. But essentially, he went and recorded just the raw audio, and typically of Ernie, there was a dispute with the record label, and there was some sort of problem with payment, and they also wanted more tracks, and it was only 25 minutes, and they needed more, and he wrote back, had these correspondences, letters, and saying like, well, yeah, that's great, but you haven't paid me for the studio time, you haven't paid me for the stuff first, so I'm not going to be able to do any more for you until you pay me, and well, we need this, and it goes back and forth, and he gets his agent involved. I don't know how, this is the part that's sort of vexing, but essentially, he just said, can I swear? By the way?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay,
Swear
sure.
storm.
He just said, fuck it, if you guys are going to pay me, no one's going to have this. And he donated it to Cedars Sinai of Lebanon, which is Cedars Sinai now, right, the hospital. And I have all these records showing that my mom went to Cedars Sinai in like the 70s and bought it back.
Wow.
Because she wanted to have it.
Wow.
So it's been sort of in the archive, mislabeled, and
what a gem.
Yeah.
What a gem.
But what was great about it was that we found it. Let me just back up a little bit. A guy named Ben Modell, who is basically the Ernie Kovacs curator, archivist, all-encompassing dude, who's great, and figured out that from looking through the actual physical material that we have in storage, that he came upon this. It was mislabeled as like film.
Oh, okay.
And so he like opened it up and was like, no, this isn't film, this is tape. Like this is so this is this comedy record that I've heard about.
That's crazy.
So we had Ben, who's actually a silent film accompanist, do a score behind it, because on the raw audio you can hear Ernie saying at the very end, okay, we'll just add 88 bars of piano here and we'll do this. So we thought, well, Ernie's kind of telling us what he wanted, so let's finish it.
That's so cool. That is so cool.
Well, and it speaks volumes that I didn't spot that it was new music. I mean, added to it. So that's
that's why I was like, actually when I listened to it the first time, because I picked up a copy too, and I actually was surprised, because I was like, okay, here's this album that you read the back cover and it shows the whole story, how it kind of like got down, and I was like, it obviously was never completed, but this sounds complete.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I guess they really completed it but never finished, but that makes sense that if you're saying you added the music afterwards.
That's actually great to hear, because at one point when we were going through mastering, and by the way, it's a company who are great people, Omnivore Recordings. They're if you just go to their website and check out their stuff, like they essentially focus on a lot of vinyl, which is great, but records that either should have existed and didn't, or records that should have been on vinyl or that never were, or adding bonus tracks. And they're doing some, I mean, I'm a huge music fan, so they're putting out a new issue of an old 97s record, and they're doing Spain records, and they're doing Bert Jansch records, and they're doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Awesome. So they were the people that we went to, and I've known them for a while, and they did a great job.
Yeah, it's fantastic printing.
That's the other thing, is I want to talk about aesthetically. Yeah. First of all, I've only bought 2 new vinyl comedy albums in a while. Okay, one of them is the one behind me, which is an all-white album, which is beautiful in and of itself. But this thing is lavender and looks like it's Bakelite, which is just, God, it's beautiful. Like, I love it, and it's obviously, it's obviously as fruity as it can possibly be, which is perfect.
Yes.
But, oh my God. So who actually manufactured the actual disc? Did you get that done elsewhere? Or?
Well, Cheryl Pavelski, who runs the label, is someone who used to work at EMI, and she was in the reissue division there. She's worked at Concord and Rhino and a bunch of different places, and she has always had this vision of starting her own company, and she did. And why I really love her and them is that basically they were like, well, this should be on purple vinyl, right? I mean, that's just lavender vinyl makes sense. You're like, yes. Someone's actually wanting to do that. And the great thing was also that we actually had a template. He had created that artwork. That was actually the artwork that I found in the file.
Holy cow.
So we basically went like, we don't have to create the whole new, like it's there.
Yeah.
So Greg Allen, who does all their design, put this all together, did a fantastic job, and they're just like, they're basically people that just think, essentially, this should look a certain way, this should be a certain way, and they did a great job.
Like a true reissue.
It doesn't look digital. Like, that's the thing, is it's like printed. It doesn't look like blown up shitty JPEGs, which you would expect nowadays. So it's gorgeous. So yeah, it feels like it's a real genuine vinyl album.
Yeah. And as much as I like, the ease of a digital download or even the CD, it doesn't. I mean, this LP is like when you look at it, like you're describing. It's like, what's that? Talking about music is like dancing to architecture or whatever.
Right,
it's like when you actually hear it and see it and look at it, you totally go, oh, I get it.
Yeah. It's got a great feel.
Yeah.
Like
I'm kind of waiting. I haven't actually dropped the needle on this only because I got the digital download and I figured that was easier. I want to wait.
Yeah.
God, but it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about. I mean, we can talk about when's the first time you actually heard or saw any of Ernie's comedy? Then, growing up.
Well, it's a weird thing because, like I was saying, Ernie was very omnipresent and around. And when I was a kid, I grew up in the house that my mom and Ernie lived in. My parents, my dad was a photographer. His name was Martin Mills. They divorced, probably 1970. But my mom lived in the house up until probably like 77, 76, something like that. But I remember his den, vividly, and I remember it was still pretty much intact.
And that was like the garage, right? Was it a separate garage den thing or something?
It was, we had a big driveway, a long driveway, and actually this is one of Ernie's things, in the 50s, 60s, big cars, not easy to get up and down, like big, turn around in the garage at the very top. So he built this giant, for lack of a better word, turntable.
Yeah, I've read about that. Yeah, it was a big turntable.
Oh, you told me about that. You're right. You did tell me
about that. That's hilarious.
And the thing would break like every two minutes.
That would be my next question. Yeah. I would imagine that like.
Well, it was like concrete, and so you'd actually take this lever and you'd go, you'd lift it up and it would literally turn the car around, so you didn't have to back it up, because Ernie was frankly not a very good driver. And Jack Lemmon was a worse driver. So one time Jack Lemmon would try to drive up there, and it was like him trying to back the car down the hill. It was like, forget it. This is all stories I heard. So, but yes, Ernie loved gadgets, loved any kind of electronics, any new. My mom said that they had a car that had a turntable in it, because everybody talks about the Beatles having the turntable in the car. Like, Mom was like, no, we did that first. We had to have vinyl. We had to listen to it in the car.
That's hilarious.
But when you went in, it was his own private den.
Right.
And it had a sign outside saying, if it said not now, it meant don't come in. And it could be on for hours or days.
Right.
And you went in and this is sort of my joke I always tell, but essentially, I walked in, you'd walk in, and I always thought that they came up with the Addams Family show based on our family.
Oh, that's so funny.
I literally thought this as a little kid because my mom's last name was Addams.
Right.
And you'd walk into this place and there were, suits of armor, there were dueling pistols.
Holy shit.
Instead of... there was like you'd go in, and to the right there was like a bathroom with a steam room, which he loved. But you go in the den.
Yes,
that's why he wouldn't leave for
that's why he's the man.
Days. He would just stay in there, and he'd take a nap, and then go back to work.
Holy crap!
But you'd go in, and there was this little like 3 steps down, and instead of like a railing, he had swords that you would hold on to.
I somehow knew you were going to say that.
Right.
That's amazing.
So good.
But there was, literally, like bearskin rugs, and there was a trap door that he made for a wine cellar. So it was, as a kid, it was fairly creepy. Ernie was, my mom would say this, he was kind of a dark figure. He was a maudlin kind of guy. But he was a man's man. He liked... guns, and I don't know if he was quite the hunter, but he liked the guns, and I think he fashioned himself more as like an Ernest Hemingway rather than being Ernest Hemingway.
Right.
But it was this like crazy den that had a hi-fi and had all the latest gadgets, and that's where he would work at his poker table, and they would play card games till my mom would sometimes go out and would say not now at 6 a.m, and then she'd go out at like 3 p.m, and say not now. She'd go back at like 6 p.m, 7 o'clock still, and they'd have like 24-hour, 48-hour poker games and just keep playing.
Yeah.
So
that room sounds like Adam's perfect house. I have to.
that definitely. I don't know. Maybe it's like a Trenton thing.
maybe that's what it is.
That dark, like aesthetic, like awesome bearskin rugs, swords. Yes,
that's so funny. Was it a thing where did your mom play his comedy or?
There were pictures everywhere.
Yeah.
In about 76, 77 is when PBS did that special where they took the quote-unquote best of Kovacs and put it on, and that's when most people, now remember from that time frame. It's like that's how people's references are about Ernie. So I think that was part of it. I think also Saturday Night Live was sort of starting around then, so you'd always have like, I think Belushi and Aykroyd at certain points sort of said like we watched Ernie stuff or we heard about Ernie stuff or so Lorne Michaels, and it was sort of like that new wave of comedy at the time, and they were kind of paying homage to Ernie a little bit. So I think all that stuff, plus there was all the pictures and things around the house that were constant reminders. So that's when I think I was more aware of him than I actually heard him.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Last summer, it was my happy pleasure to have walked about in Rome, and one of my visits was made to the Roman Colosseum. And it was there that I thought back and thought, oh, how sad it is to see this place now, and how wondrous and joyful it must have been those many centuries ago. So I have written a little poem called Ode to the Happier Days of the Roman Colosseum. Standing in your drafty ruins, a tear runs down my cheek, thinking of the happy days you had each Roman week. Nostalgia, nostalgia, you tear my every fiber, shiny breastplates in the sun and dips in the river Tiber. No longer does the gladiator stand hacking his opponent, while Caesar watched and ate a slave and perhaps a donut.
Let's talk about getting. I mean, I don't know if there is any more to tell about putting the album together. The recordings were found. You got them compiled. I mean, was there any picking and choosing? There's no picking and choosing, right? It was just the tracks are there, or no?
Well, on the vinyl, and it's great because Ernie actually says like this is the beginning of side one and this is the close of side one, so you really have an idea of this is exactly the album he wanted to make in that order. But what we did was with the air checks is that we pulled some material off of his 1952 show because it's great for an album, but that it's only 24, 26 minutes, which is a perfect album time.
Right.
But for a CD or for digital, it seems like we can't make people pay full price. So we kind of combed through and pulled some Percy Dovetonsils off of the audio air checks and kind of added it on because we felt like people weren't going to be particularly happy with, spending that kind of money. So we just, and plus it's just damn cool.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Just,
there's
more bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Where is it? Where was I looking? There's, is it in here? No, there is. There's a picture of the glasses. Do the glasses still exist somewhere, out of curiosity?
They do. It's certain, there were certain, I can't remember if those were auctioned.
Mm-hmm.
Those were auctioned off, when my mom passed away, she had a very large house, and I just don't have that big of a house.
Right.
And so there were certain things that I had to keep and certain things that I couldn't keep.
Right.
Plus, my mom in the 90s, there was it's gone now, it's defunct, it's called the Hollywood Entertainment Museum, and it was like...
I was talking about this yesterday, I'm so depressed it's not there anymore.
I know.
It really makes me upset. Sorry, continue. Sorry.
Well, it's upsetting for a lot of reasons because it was supposedly how they were going to reconnect with Hollywood's past, and they gave a whole sort of song and dance, but it never really did. Like, they had the Cheers bar, and they had all these things
and the
there.
Next Generation Bridge, which is, huge for me as a nerd.
Well, they about 2 years ago, just sort of like, we're not going to open and we're just going to auction everything off. And my mom had donated a lot of like
oh my God,
classic stuff and
auction
like
that shit off? Holy
all of it.
God damn it.
And the thing was, now having been through all this stuff,
yeah,
I realized that what she should have done is said, essentially, here, you can have this, and it's going to be auctioned off. If this is ever going to be sold, we get the right of first refusal. And my mom just thought she was doing a good thing, and
next thing you know,
well, I will say this as a museum, or as a place to go, at least it was just rungs above all the other garbage at Hollywood and Highland, which is fucking Ripley's, believe it or not, wax museum. I'm sure that's fun for tourists. I haven't even done it, but the Hollywood Entertainment Museum, you paid $5 to walk around sets of shit that you grew up with, or at least that I did, and to see like old stuff. Like, I'm sure his glasses were in there somewhere. I didn't just know who the hell he was at the time. I was too ignorant to realize. But I mean, they had
oh, so you actually went to the museum?
Yes. Oh, yes, several times. What's the robot from The Day the Earth Stood Still? My brain is just completely
That's it. That's not
Tobor. Klato.
That
was the guy's name.
Oh, right. But you know what I'm talking about. That was there. One of those was there.
Really?
Like, yes. There's just so much classic, amazing crap there. But sorry, that's a long tangent. I literally was talking about it yesterday, and I was very upset about it. Let's see.
There's also, just to throw it out there, there's a museum in Chicago called the museum. It's MBC, the Museum of Broadcasting Center, or something. And they have been, my mom donated a lot of stuff to them too, and they have sort of been trying to find a home for all this stuff. So I'm hoping that they're actually going to be up and running, and going to be able to display this stuff as well. So
God, that'd be nice.
And it's actually run by the guy whose father ran Dumont. His name is Bruce Dumont.
Oh, really?
Wow.
And he really tried to do this sort of alternative thing to the Paley Center, or the other what was it previously called, before the Paley Center.
It's on the back of the vinyl, I think. But
and they're great friends of ours too. We did a great event with them in 2011.
Really?
But there's more stuff at this museum of NBC in Chicago, and we're just hoping that they actually find a building and can actually display this stuff. So
God, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Why do you think he chose Percy Dovetonsils? I guess he's iconic, from all those things. You think that's it? He's the one that works best in audio, is what I'm thinking. That's my first thought.
It's funny. I think that it got a big laugh.
Yeah.
People remembered him.
Yeah.
I think that, Nairobi Trio is another thing that Ernie's known for, but that wouldn't really make a record.
Not at all.
Right.
And I think that, the thing about Percy, I think, is that he, for whatever anybody's sort of projecting onto him as a character, he's sort of a sweet guy. And he's not going to hurt anyone, and he's and I think that, Ernie was a likable guy. I mean, he could certainly get angry and pissed off and, really, tell someone to shove it. But I think that the character was just something that he thought was very fun. I mean, if you listen to some of the things, they're sort of timeless gags, and it's not political, it's not but it's like historic, and it's just very funny. I don't know. Yeah.
He's clearly having so much. There's a couple where he's just killing himself.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say, growing up, we had the family connection, and then being of an Eastern European background in Trenton. Like, he's, oh yeah, well, we got Ernie Kovacs. You know what I'm saying? Like, kind of like, I remember my grandfather's brother talking about him, like, he's kind of like the neighborhood hero. You know what I'm saying? Because he actually,
cool.
he didn't just end up working at Roebling Steel making cable.
Right.
Right. So it's like, oh my God, we are capable of something really interesting and different. But anyway, so besides that connection, Philly 57 in which was the old UHF, they used to broadcast at like 10 at night, the 70s Kovacs show all through the 80s and the early 90s.
Nice.
And that's how I knew about him and all the stories, but that's how me and actually one of my best friends I grew up with, we got kind of exposed to it, because it would just be like, I don't know, just sitting, and you didn't have cable, so it's just UHF, and it's like 9 o'clock, and this thing comes on, and it's like, what? And Percy was always our favorite character, especially my best friend, and if I had to say why, I like how you were saying, I couldn't even explain it.
Yeah.
It was just like, it's kind of like the absurdity, and just, I don't know, that was always our favorite bit. Like, watching that show, even being like, whatever, 13, 14, 15 years and old, just like, what? Because it's just goofy.
Yeah.
It's just really like goofy and funny, and I don't know. So I get it. It's funny because what you're saying is actually my own experience. Like the appeal to it was really that. It wasn't even like the gimmick was so cool.
Right.
It was just like we watch it and just be like, Jesus, this is insane. This is like, what is this? This is so funny.
Yeah.
And then you put on it the puns and all the other things.
Right. And the fact that he's so amused by his own jokes that like you're almost in on like his humor, and
it's true character.
Yes.
You know, that's what it is. Just the character is funny.
And that's the thing. It's like, you know, the one thing I realized watching all this Ernie Kovacs material for these box sets that are coming out is that I've never seen, and I can say this, you know, with, you know, just this is the truth as far as I'm concerned, I've never seen anyone more relaxed in front of a camera.
Yeah.
It's almost like, and that was his thing, like you were just in his living room and he was just talking. And if things didn't work, it wasn't like he even like made a joke so much about it. He just sort of went on with the sketch and like went on with the show, or and it's shocking how relaxed and calm he was. Because now you know there's so much pressure and there's so much like, you know, you got to be funny and there's got to be a joke every 2 minutes, and he just let things kind of, if it didn't work, tough shit, we'll go on to the next one. There's always tomorrow, or you know. And that's what I think is amazing about him, is it's a very sort of languid character as well, that just kind of went on and kind of did its thing, and you know, I think
just
it was
checking in.
Yeah,
you know, you just checking in with this weird guy.
Right.
That's so funny. Out of curiosity, because I don't know, and I'm totally ignorant, and I kind of get shit from some people for not being as educated on here, but I don't know the story of how Edie and Ernie met. So I just, if you could, I mean, I know you probably talked about it last time too.
Yeah,
Storm,
I know. I mean, I just know from what I've read.
Okay,
I'm sure you've got some really interesting.
Well, I mean, my mom. It's interesting. My mom was this kid that grew up in Pennsylvania. Her parents were incredibly proper. Pennsylvania Dutch. I mean, they were just very, you know like a lot of like, you know, Jello molds and you know, that kind of thing. And you know, my mom would always say, like, you'd walk into the house and like every dish would clatter, and it was just everything was just very precious and very whatever. So the fact that she wanted to be an entertainer was almost like, you know, she couldn't even see the movies when she was a kid. Like that was just too crazy.
Jesus, that's crazy.
So Ernie later would be doing like parodies of sketches, and my mom would have to go like, okay, you got to tell me more about this, because like I never saw this as a kid. Like I never saw these movies that you're making jokes of, these B movies or whatever.
Right.
But essentially, my mom she was going to Juilliard, and she won a contest as Miss Television 1950.
Awesome.
Yeah, and she also won this other contest for like Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts, which I mean I'm way too young to even remember that show, but it was a big deal in 1950 or 51.
Okay.
And one of the producers on Ernie's show saw her sing a song on one of the two of them, and essentially was like, hey, we should bring her on to our show. Let's see if she's any good. And, you know, and I think, you know, even Ernie was sort of like, whatever, you know, it's this pretty blonde or whatever, and we'll just bring her on the show, and that's fine. And I think pretty early on, it was sort of like he was doing his best to not try to pay attention to her, and she was kind of doing her best to not pay attention to him, but there was a definite connection, and she'd never seen anybody like Ernie. She talks about it in her book, how, you know, he just was like, you know, I never saw anyone like that. I didn't, you know, Hungarian people, and he had smoked cigars, he had a mustache, and he was dark, and like he was so. The quote she always says, like, you know, I don't know what it is, but I want one, and that's essentially like how.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it's just I imagine then her own sense of humor must have been pretty sharp, because comedians don't like people who can't keep up and don't laugh at their jokes.
Yeah,
you know.
And the thing about my mom was that, you know, she was. You know, I'm going through a bunch of my mom's stuff now. And we're actually going to be releasing a lot of different stuff. I mean, a DVD from her shows in the 60s and all this other stuff. But what was great about her was that she got along with comedians, and she got along with actors, and she got along with, you know, writers. And, you know, I think my mom just genuinely was interested in a lot of things. And, I mean, even stuff that I see on YouTube that I haven't seen for my own collection, like my mom doing a Marilyn Monroe impression, but doing it as, like, singing Davy Crockett theme is like, that's pretty absurd in the 1950s. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
I love it. That's so good.
And it's very funny, and she's still very sexy. I mean, it's weird for you to say that as like my mom,
right?
But I've come to terms with it. I'm in my 40s. I can, you know, she was a sexy woman. All right, guys liked her. I get it. All right, fine.
That's
yeah. So, Yeah, she was their comedic thing was good.
Yeah, that's so good because again, you know, just from experience, a lot of actresses just don't have a sense of humor.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm bitter being in LA for this long.
And I have absolutely no idea because all I know is just what I've read on books and online and the things I've seen on TV. But I've always had an impression, especially when you see bits with the two of them, Ernie and your mother, you could tell there was a dynamic. Like I didn't know if they were brother and sister or lifelong friends or if they were partners or what was going on. But whenever you'd see a bit with those two, you definitely could tell that there was like always a smirk on both of their faces. There was always something that was just like a little bit different. Like you knew the dynamic there was. So I couldn't even imagine what it would be like at the kitchen breakfast table, seeing that dynamic like on film.
Right.
Yeah.
That dynamic when it comes to taking out the garbage. Or just like everything on every day. I mean, it just seemed like they had a really dynamic relationship. You know?
Well, my mom would say that one of Ernie's like great besides the fact that Ernie was like a terrible insomniac and could sleep like 4 hours a night and you know functioned perfectly, was that you know Ernie had this sort of zest for life where she would say like he'd wake up and it'd be like this is the best eggs, this is the best coffee I ever had, it's the best food I've ever eaten. So everything to him was like, you know, just new. All the time. And he just had a real passion for, I mean, the guy smoked, 15, 20 cigars a day? I mean, you know, insane amounts of, you know, cigar. But, you know, that also, I think, goes back to, you know, Ernie was in the tuberculosis ward when he was a kid and all that stuff. And I think that, you know, he spent almost like a full year when he was like, basically a teen, I think. Maybe his early 20s, I don't remember. But he basically spent almost a year of his life there. And I think he realized that, you know what, I could die at any time. There's death all around me. I'm in a pauper's sort of, you know, hospital. And got to enjoy life. And I think that's what he did. I think he just went and said, the minute I get it, I'm going to spend it. I'm going to do everything I can. It's almost like Bobby Darin, who had the heart condition. He kind of realized, like, you know what, I'm probably going to die young, and I'm going to have the most amount of fun and do everything I can in that short amount of time.
Right.
I think Ernie had that.
It's so weird, though, just because you don't see that as often in comedians. I mean, it's... I have to go off the stereotypes. I know so many Tears of a Clown comedians that it bores the crap out of me. So you don't find too many people with a zest for life that can still make good comedy.
Yeah.
Because the comedy has to come from a dark place, but a lot of comedians don't realize you don't have to live in that dark place 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
You know?
He did have his dark moments, and I think towards the end, my mom kind of talks about in her book like how it was getting pretty hairy with the IRS and money troubles, and you know his mother was definitely an issue in his life. But at the same time, I think you know he just, if you got it, spend it, and you know if I'm making $1,000, I'll spend 10,000. Like you know you can't tell me how to live my life, and which is why essentially he didn't want to pay his taxes. Was that they were in an incredibly high tax bracket. Everybody talks about our taxes now, and here we come Republican National Convention and Democratic National Convention, and my mom and Ernie were in a 90% tax bracket. So every dollar that they earned, 90 cents went to the government. And Ernie was basically just like, fuck you, I am not giving you this money. And he didn't pay his taxes. And then they got audited, and there was a whole story, which again you'll read in the book, about a sort of overzealous IRS agent who basically said, you give me a little bit of money, no problems. You don't give me money, there will be problems.
Holy shit.
And my mom would never name the name. She never told me. She didn't. But there was a guy, and basically that started like years of IRS trouble for my mom.
Wow.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Well, as a former tax attorney,
I
can say that makes total sense.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't do tax law anymore.
I hear you.
Because...
Wish you would have talked to my mom.
I wish I could have.
Yeah.
So, if there's a time machine, we'll find the time machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you
Go back and...
Are there plans for... I'm sure there are just so many archives there that could go into another album, right?
Well, I will give you the exclusive details about this.
I'm stoked on this.
Do you guys know about Record Store Day?
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I don't.
Okay.
I should with this fucking
Again,
podcast.
the vinyl geek.
Yeah, I know.
You're more... Yeah.
Well, Record Store Day, there's this thing every April where essentially everybody realized that, you know, people aren't going to record stores anymore. Independent record stores are kind of dying in a lot of ways. So let's do some exclusive things that will just literally get people to walk into a store. And it's turned into this vinyl craze. And I'm the geek too. I can't stop buying this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's every April. But every November, they have a thing called Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like a smaller version, but it's like 2 times a year they do this. So this November, we're going to be putting out a picture disc 10-inch of Ernie Kovacs, Percy Dovetonsils, Christmas.
Holy shit.
Man.
So it's like 5 or 6 tracks, and the artwork is awesome.
Oh my god.
And we're putting that out, and it's
that's cool.
like there's only 1,000 of them, and
shit.
like it's very limited, but it's pretty cool.
Yep.
So
Get in line now.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Get in line at Amoeba right now.
and again, Omnivore, amazing job. Like
Yeah.
they just get it. They just get it.
Yeah, that's
And,
so
like,
cool.
yeah.
It's so cool that these things are getting the treatment that they really like deserve. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's and this is a good way, I think, anyway, to draw attention. I mean, vinyl at least is finally finding more of an audience. I know it's a little more expensive, but whatever. It's more than worth it because again, for me, and I've talked to a lot of people about it on these shows. Some people, it trends younger. They don't really care about having something physical in their hands. For me, it's very important, and there is.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, right.
Being in your space.
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same way. Don't worry.
I have a problem. I mean, this house is just filled with crap.
I am you.
trinkets.
You are me. We're the same person. I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, that's why I've always liked it because it's just nice because it's actually a process of listening. That's my theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that you lost as soon as the tape deck could go to side B automatically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's because you sit down and you actually like hold it and you sit and you kind of listen and maybe you're doing something else, but there's actually like a process. It's more, it makes you, the medium makes you
Right.
Yeah.
be more involved with it and be more conscious.
I vividly remember my sister, who was she was my half sister, was Ernie's daughter, and my half sister was Ernie and my mom's daughter. There you go, the only child they had. But I remember her coming home and having a Steve Martin record, and literally, like I think it was Let's Get Small, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
And she was like, you have to hear this. And me, my mom, and my sister sat in my room on my little, plastic record player and laughed for like 30 minutes.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And
that's so cool.
Waiting for the punchline, waiting for the joke, and us just laughing. And I just remember it's a great memory of, being a kid, also just like me, my mom, my sister. But just also realizing like Steve Martin was so damn funny. And so that was part of my, so
That's so
that
awesome.
That vinyl got us together.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
See, that's exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you see, you already answered the question I was going to ask. Did you ever make any friends like over comedy? Like, I don't know, because I mean, again, you talk about you're a vinyl guy, a lot of music, but I don't know if you collect any comedy stuff.
I have so much stupid vinyl comedy stuff, which is why I was like, you are my people. Like, I'm the one that goes to the thrift stores and I'm looking for, vinyl. I'm looking for, whatever I can find. But like, it started with Steve Martin and Richard Pryor, and then it went to George Carlin,
Right.
and then, I have, whatever the History of the World Part 1 on vinyl, or then there's this like single that came out where it's like a Mel Brooks rap, and it's like I would just I would get way out there.
Yeah.
But I think those things are the coolest things out there because I have like, I remember buying, and this is really obscure. Do you guys know who Wally George was? Or is?
Whoa.
No.
Okay. Well,
Damn it.
he's not a comedian, but he was like, do you guys remember Morton Downey Jr.?
Yes.
Remember
Oh, yeah.
that?
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
He was the Orange County public access version of Morton Downey
Really?
Jr.
Okay.
The other
I
weird
like
thing
this, then.
is that Wally George is Rebecca De Mornay's father.
What?
Yes.
Okay.
Random.
So he was this like insane guy on television in the 80s that would just basically put down his guests, and it was like theater of the absurd. But you couldn't take your eyes off it. It was the first like craziness I ever saw like on television. So he put out this like ridiculous Wally George like record with music and rap, and I'm like, I have to own this.
Yeah.
Like this is a
Holy
piece
shit.
of Americana.
Yep.
But it was that was a comedy record to me.
Sure.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
I have like this crazy Chick Hearn from the Lakers. He was the announcer for the Lakers.
Yeah, yeah.
He did a thing on Rhino Records called like Wrap Around.
Yeah.
Oh my
where he was
God.
rapping, but it was like it was so bad, but it was amazing.
Right.
But it was like the very beginning of rap, like Fat Boys rap, like not
Yeah,
like
yeah,
NWA
yeah,
rap,
yeah.
but
Right.
like
It's with Chick Hearn.
it was
Oh,
Chick
man,
Hearn.
I bet
and
you
it's
that's
like,
amazing.
It's so great. So I have to have this, like,
Right.
obscurities. Like,
Right.
this is great humor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the first poems that Percy Dovetonsils ever wrote was called Thoughts While Falling Off the Empire State Building, and is one of my contributions. I would like to do it for you now, if I may. Thoughts While Falling Off the Empire State Building by Percy Dovetonsils. Well, look at me. I'm right at the top. I'm certainly getting my kicks. My, this building is awfully tall. There must be dozens of bricks. These guided tours are awfully dull. I'll slip away from the rest. There now, I'm all alone. This solo stuff is best. I'll just climb up upon this ledge. Gee whiz, my trousers are ripped. Perhaps I should get off before... Oh, darn it, now I've done it. I've slipped. Off I go into outer space, 103 floors to fall to. Let me see, am I correct, or is it 102 to fall to?
And that really is the best part about, like, thrift storing for old vinyl. It's like finding that completely absurd, like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Like, are you kidding me?
Who
They actually
thought
put, because it was such a cheap medium
Yeah.
to put out, especially in the 70s,
Mhm.
that it's like, even if you had 5 projects and 4 of them got X'd, you're still putting out
Yeah.
the 7-inch, no
Yeah.
matter
Yeah,
what.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you just
Definitely.
get,
I found a Freddie Prince 7-inch from one of his comedy albums. I was like, where are you going to find this? Like,
exactly. It's like
from the album. Like, I was always like happier when it was like the A side was like taken from the album, but the B side was like an unreleased thing. I always
Right.
thought like I'm getting the
Yeah,
you
the
know,
bonus.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
bonus
the
material.
secret.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That stuff's probably way more secret now, too. It's
Yeah.
just a lot
Oh, yeah.
harder to find.
Yeah, because it's almost like some of the stuff you can't even find catalog.
No.
Like
No.
a lot of it, like it didn't even like
Well,
whatever.
Do you know the other thing is that in the 60s and early 70s there were these sort of party records, these black like alternate Richard Pryor records that came out, but they were all under the guise of like this label called Do 2, and there's another one called Laugh Records, and there were these crazy obscure things. But Richard Pryor put out, and this as a white kid growing up in the 70s, I had all the Warner Brothers records, and
Yeah.
those are amazing. It's Something I Said and whatever, Bicentennial Nigger, whatever it was.
Right.
But there are probably 20 to 30 records that he made for this other label
Really?
Fuck.
that if they're there. I mean, but they're hard to find or they're
Yeah.
expensive. But some of it is like they just put a tape recorder on stage and just said like that's a record.
Yeah.
Or
Oh,
like
shit. Exactly.
And it's like that's the kind of stuff I'm like there's a whole other Richard Pryor career that people don't even know about.
That's
Yeah.
kind of blowing my mind.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and same labels that did like Skillet and Leroy or Red Fox
Right.
or I mean really obscure stuff where it's just like I cannot believe, and they're mostly LA based.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was once in a record store in Baltimore and they had one of those records for like $35, and I was like, wow, those are like $10 in LA or whatever.
Yeah,
and he was
yeah.
like, they didn't really get here. Like
Yeah.
they didn't go to the East Coast. Like
Yeah.
small distributor, small label. Like
Crazy.
Right.
so. When I say you are my people, I mean you are my
No,
people.
I appreciate it.
So-
I dig it. I dig it.
There's one album I'm actually trying. I desperately want, but even out here it's $80. Is I had Matt Besser on a few months ago, and Matt Besser said there's this album that Del Close, the guy who founded Improv Olympic and all that stuff,
Yeah.
released called it's called How to Speak Hip. And it's a one-note record, I guess, but it's all like an instructional manual on how to speak as though you're a hipster back in the 50s.
Wow.
And this record's like $80 at Atomic here in Burbank, and holy crap, it's got beautiful art on the cover. It's in like mint condition. But yeah, that's the kind of rare stuff you don't find it.
Yeah.
Where do you go around here, just out of curiosity? I know it's not going to help people who are listening on other ends of the country, but I'm curious where you find your records.
Well, I do like Atomic a lot, but I'm also the guy that like, I work with a band that was playing a show in Long Beach. I was like, I'll go to Fingerprints and I'll check out what they got there. Or, my daughter is in daycare and like there's a really good Goodwill that's only like a mile away. So anywhere I can find vinyl, and one of the things I really kind of like to do, I don't do it as much now that I'm a dad, but having the chance to go travel and like going to record stores or I'm going to Boise, Idaho or something. It's just good to thrift there because there's amazing stuff that
Right.
but anywhere where I can find a record. I mean, if
Yeah.
I've been to Kansas City, I'm like going to buy records. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the one that I have to take a backpack with me because I can't put it in my suitcase
Yeah.
because I don't want it to break.
Yeah.
And I need to have it with me because I'm that obsessive.
Right.
Can't leave my hands.
Yep.
That's got to be hard though, because then you got to wait to get home to listen to it.
I know.
That's got to be a bitch.
Yeah.
I always
I
get
hope my
back
wife
on the
does not
phone.
hear this podcast.
Right?
Too much stuff.
Oh my god, I'm really excited though about a Christmas. I love Christmas stuff in
that's
general,
super
even though
cool.
I'm not even remotely religious, but I love Christmas themed stuff, especially if it's comedy.
Well,
I'm very excited about
Omnivore is also putting out in October the Edie Adams Christmas record,
that. Really?
which has duets with Ernie.
Oh.
Nice.
And it's only on CD. This one he didn't do on vinyl because who knows how that's
Sure.
gonna do. So we have to start,
Right.
But she sings like basically it was recorded in the 1950s. It was on a show called Kovacs Unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And my mom, this is why I know about acetates or about audio air checks, is that my mom was a classically trained Juilliard singer. She sang opera. She sang, high art, quote unquote.
Right.
So when she got an Ernie show, they would say, "Well, sing a pop song,"
Right.
and she'd go, "I don't know these songs. Patty Page. I don't know, whoever. I don't know what it is." So she actually paid out of her own pocket to get a transcription service to record these shows because she wanted to hear what she sounded like.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Oh.
So it's only the
Cool.
audio. It's not video.
Right.
So we don't have the actual video of the shows, but we have all this audio.
Mm.
So we pulled together from 1952 on Kovacs Unlimited. Ernie was on every day, so there was a December month where they sang Christmas songs, and we pulled all the songs off of there,
Right.
and that's the record.
That's
Wow,
crazy.
that's really cool.
And that sounds very good.
How is he as a singer, out of curiosity?
He's a comedian.
Yeah.
But he, the thing about Ernie was that he kind of tried. I think he was game for it. And plus, again, if it didn't work, move on to the next
Yeah,
thing. It didn't
yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things where he sings like Silver Bells with her. My mom is more of like the backbone of it and whatever. But you can tell he gets a little confidence and he kind of like, I'm into it. I get it. And
That's cool.
so some of that stuff is just like, I'm just so happy it's out there.
Yeah,
It's been
sure.
sitting in the dark at,
course.
forever, and now it's like,
Well, that's
That's
why I
super
love this
cool.
stuff. That's that's again why I like to discover crap that nobody's heard,
Yeah.
or at least that people haven't heard in a long time, and sometimes you can only get it on vinyl.
yeah,
It
I'm loving it.
seemed like you had a question. Stuff.
Oh no, I was thinking for a second.
Oh, okay.
I was just thinking how cool that hearing your mom and Ernie sing Silver Bells is going to be. I was just trying to picture it in my head for a second, being like, Edie Adams and Ernie Kovacs singing Silver Bells.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah.
But it's cool.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It will
Are we
be
gonna-
played on Christmas Eve at my place.
Yeah, that's right.
There-
Are we going to be able to get the vinyl one online, or is it going to be kind of an exclusively stores release? The
whole point of Record Store Day,
Is-
fortunately or unfortunately, is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they want you to go to the store.
Sure, of course. So
So you
100% exclusive.
Yeah. And the other,
Damn.
I keep forgetting about Freakbeat.
Mhm.
It's a great store in Sherman Oaks.
Okay.
It is, yeah.
I love those guys.
Yeah.
Bob Say is he runs a great store, and but I go there on Record Store Day, and I'm literally the guy that's like, okay, I'm going to go to Origami Vinyl and buy these things first, and then I'm going to drive to
Right.
Sherman Oaks and wait online. And
Right.
my wife is always like, A, why are you leaving so early?
Right.
B, like, I've got some terrible drug addiction. It's like, well,
Right.
it's really just
Right.
vinyl that I have to have, honey.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, I do the same thing, the whole calculation on Record Store Day. Well, Amoeba's going to get the most of this
Right.
print.
Right.
But it's going to sell the fastest. But I can go to Rockaway after because I doubt that anyone's going to get that.
Right.
Yeah, and it's
All right,
like
I'm going to have to follow one of you then, because
Yeah.
that's the only
It's
way I'm
pretty
gonna get my
absurd.
copy.
If-
But
if-
it's really
Awesome.
fun. I mean, if it's your hobby, it's kind of fun.
course.
The only thing I don't like about it is that people do it and they just buy it to sell it on
To
eBay,
resell.
and
Oh, yeah.
that makes me
yeah.
sick.
I mean, that's
Pisses me off.
annoying.
I had a
It's
feeling.
like,
Yeah.
it's like people, like scalping tickets.
Right.
It's like the exact same mentality.
And
And that's so obnoxious when you see that.
It's the same shit that ruins Comic-Con for nerds like me when there's guys who have these books of autographs they're clearly trying to sell. It's, fuck you. I'm
Yeah.
a fan of this person.
Yeah.
I have
yeah,
a real
it
question.
Kind of.
My mom would, before she passed away, would do these, like, do you know the Ray Court shows? Do you know the ones that are at the... This guy Ray Courts does these big events, and usually at the Beverly Garland
Okay.
Hotel.
Okay.
And you'd always see, like, Rob Zombie and Johnny Ramone, excuse me,
Uh-huh.
because they were crazy, horror film nerds,
Right.
and they would be going around and like the person who was in the Creature from the Black Lagoon, they'd have them sign
Right.
stuff like supposedly Johnny Ramone had like this insane poster collection, but you always had people like my mom and like then you have like Marjo Gortner or someone
Right,
like
just some randomly,
Brandon Cruz or whatever, and so I would help her out sometimes, and we'd be selling as my mom would say, or jams and jellies. You go out there.
Yeah.
And there were definitely people we'd see that would, kind of come and say, "Oh yeah, $10. It seems like a lot of money. Maybe you could just," and you'd see them again and again, and they were just the people selling autographs.
Yeah.
And we were just like, no.
Yeah.
Like, Josh, you're the son of a bitch. You're going to be the one saying no. I don't say no.
Right.
You're the one.
Right.
So I was the muscle, which is pathetic as it sounds.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, though.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, crap. Is there, out of curiosity, I mean, do you see, obviously both of you, actually, I can ask both of you, since you guys are more the vinyl collectors, I'm just the comedy collector, do you see a lot of comedy vinyl, though, even when you're going out on these things? When you go out on it? New stuff? New stuff.
Oh, new stuff?
Yeah.
No, not so much. I mean, there is. I do see, I saw a Dane Cook record.
Yeah, that
printed.
doesn't count. That doesn't count.
Which is, but, I mean, I think, and maybe, I'd be interested to see what you say on it. I think that with certain acts, I think the major labels are willing to do it because it's just such a minimal cost, and they can do such a low print, and they can charge $30 for it, that's like an optimal thing.
Right.
But I think in general, as it like a kind of like, we'll use this media as an art form, something like you see like with all those classic ones in the 70s, the Steve Martin's, the Red Fox albums. I haven't really seen anything to that, where it's being used as a medium, as like, this is how I want to express myself. Like the Carlin, I think like the Carlin are probably the best, because he really took was like, I'm going to do something on this format. I'm not just going to do my act.
Right.
But there's going to be something that's kind of more, I don't see that character as much. But I do see, they still put out comedy albums.
Sure.
And, but not, I don't think it's targeted so much as being, you're going to flip the side, and when you flip the side, there'll be like a big, flatulent sound or something.
Right.
Like something that's more...
Or National Lampoon records, I was really big on those. I loved, That's Not Funny, That's Sick, or any of those were just like that. And I remember listening to one of the jokes, and I went to Tower Records with my mom, and I was one of those kids that was like, but I was buying cassettes then. And I remember listening to one of the jokes, and it's all about, the first sketch is like how vulgar they can be, basically. And it's all like, whatever. It was just so... And I was laughing hysterically just because they were saying, like, vagina! And I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
But my mom was like, oh my... she wasn't a prude, but she was just like... And after it was over, she kind of like turned it off and was like, okay, here's the deal. You can swear, but it has to be funny.
Right.
Like, if it's not funny, it's just swearing.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I guess I get that. I just thought it was funny because they were saying, whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Poop.
Yeah.
Yes. It's just funny.
But I also think, just to get back to what you were just saying, I think like when you had in the 80s and 90s, when you had like a Sam Kinison, who was sort of a cultural phenomenon, or Andrew Dice Clay, you would see like, Deaf American putting out records, and there was like hundreds of thousands of copies of Andrew Dice Clay records.
Yeah. Right.
And milking that, 3 or 4 records down the way until it was like 50,000 and, lower. But, Comedy Central, I think, has a record label now,
Yeah,
and they
do.
put stuff out. And
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
it's, yeah,
Yeah, see, because I'm just not...
They do
I'm
CDs.
just
I
not
mean,
so
like
hip to it.
the only one that I know that specializes, again, to my knowledge, is a Special Thing Records, and they're the ones who put out Jonah Ray's album, which is this one. They put out, rarely will put out a vinyl. He likes to just put out vinyls every time he does comedy.
Cool.
Which is awesome. But yeah, a Special Thing, astrecords.com if people are interested, and you already have heard of them, I guarantee, if you're listening to this podcast. But yeah, because you just don't see it. I know Weird Al, like he released his latest album on vinyl.
Right.
I don't have it
see
on
that.
vinyl.
Yeah.
That's a major.
And also, I think his fans,
Right.
he goes back 20-something years, they had turntables.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's this one story that I've heard told on a million and podcasts, but I hope to hear it told. I don't know if you guys know who Paul Scheer is, but Paul Scheer is on The League. He's on the fake CSI spoof on Adult Swim. He had Weird Al 3D growing up, but his mother, because there's a song on there called Nature Trail to Hell, she's very Christian, made him snap it over his knee. Made him snap the friggin' vinyl over his knee. Did you guys ever have anything banned in your houses? I'm gonna guess, Josh, maybe not.
My mom was like
pretty cool.
so cool about there's like a Richard Pryor sketch where he's going like nigger, 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 and like I was just shocked that he was saying it in my house, on a record, and I couldn't even believe it. And she kind of like poke her head and everything. What's this? What's that? But not really.
Yeah,
I was very. I mean, I had incredibly liberal parents.
Right.
Yeah, very liberal.
And I know, Storm, that you did too. But
yeah, no, there's nothing really.
No,
not even bedtime.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I was really banned from anything. I don't think.
I will tell you one. Like as a comic guy, this will kill you. One of my best friend, Sean, went to a Catholic school. His parents were Catholic. He was, the whole outfit, and kept, in class in a book. He had a comic book, and one of the nuns saw that he was reading a comic book, and it was particularly gory, or it was something not, it wasn't Dennis the Menace,
right,
and
something cool.
They took it away from him, and he had hundreds of comic books at home.
Oh,
no. And they called his parents. And when he came home, his dad had literally cut up every single one in half.
Oh, come on.
And he just said it was the most traumatic experience he'd ever had.
Yeah. Wow.
And he just I'm never forgiving my dad.
Right.
And I'm traumatized by this. Yeah. Completely.
Meanwhile, Detective Comics 1.
Yeah.
Number 1 is now on 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's not right.
Yeah, that would have traumatized me. For sure.
Don't do that to your kids.
No.
Did your mom, out of curiosity then, did your mom have any comedy vinyl stuff? Did she?
Well, one of the cool things about growing up in that house was that, Ernie was also a DJ, as we talked about earlier. So we had a lot of stuff. I still have records that he got as a DJ.
Awesome.
So, but I mean, we had Lenny Bruce records, and I'm rediscovering Lenny Bruce, and also realizing it's 40 plus years since this was recorded. Some of that stuff is still groundbreaking and insane what he's talking about. I can't imagine talking about civil rights in the middle of it, and saying the words he says, and but we had I'm trying to think. We had Lenny Bruce records. We had First Family. Whenever
everybody seemed to have that one, right?
Yeah, that was sort of the 101 strings version of comedy. But there was a lot of different great stuff that we had on vinyl, and I still have some of it. I had to get rid of because my own collection plus my mom's was just insane. But my dad was also a photographer, but he worked in the music industry, but he knew a lot of comics.
Okay.
So we would, I remember vividly going into Nate and Al's Deli, and there's Shecky Green, and my dad's like, Shecky, Marty. We sat down and talked, and I'm like, even then I was like, I'm sitting down with Shecky Green. This is pretty damn cool. Yeah. Or even Norman Alden, who just passed away, was a famous character actor, Marty, whatever. And so there are these moments where I was just like, there were really cool moments as a kid that very few people think meeting Shecky Green is a cool thing, but I thought it was the greatest thing ever.
That would blow my mind.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So
God, it's gotta be crazy.
Those are these memories are just or we went to, unfortunately, Stanley Kramer's memorial service, or it was a public one for, I think it was the Producers or Directors Guild, probably.
Okay.
But everyone was there. It was Sidney Poitier, and it was just went on and on and on. And my mom, it was so funny. I was everybody, after it was over, there was a reception, or, and she was kind of okay, let's go. And I was like, you don't want to just, and she was just like, no, not really.
Yeah.
I was like, I guess, my mom had met so many people, she didn't really feel like I really need to schmooze very much longer. So we just, went home, and I was like...
Yeah, not only that, and she also saw, she was at the birth of it all, of the entertainment industry. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? She saw it come up. So I imagine that things are less impressive when you see how things started. I mean, not that they're less impressive, but you know what I'm saying? The star-struck element, because she was there. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny because I actually did see this on the internet. My mom was on, and I remember being at one of the tapings, but my mom was on the Hollywood Squares.
Awesome.
Yes. Right. And I remember being there, and I was very upset because I only picked her 2 times or something.
Right.
I didn't get that, Paul Lynde gets the prime spot. I didn't, get it. By the way, there's a great record called Zingers from the Hollywood Squares.
I think I've seen that
which
one.
you should get.
Really?
Yeah. Yes. And it's all Paul Lynde, the confirmed Bachelor poll in.
Right.
You know, how America didn't realize. Okay.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, my mom, they one of the questions is about the Beatles, and my mom makes this really derogatory comment about the Beatles.
Really?
And she actually on her show did a parody of the Beatles called like the Roaches or something.
Right.
Because my mom, Frank Sinatra got that they were geniuses because he would sing, you know, George Harrison songs or whatever.
Right.
Sure.
My mom, on the other hand, was like, you know, no, like a genius is like Leonard Bernstein or like Andre Previn or, you know, her Juilliard came out and she just thought this terrible 4-chord rock and roll stuff.
Right.
So it was just really absurd to like hear my mom like trash the Beatles and
That's so
On
funny.
the Hollywood Squares.
on the Hollywood Square, exactly.
Which is like,
That's so crazy.
yeah, that's...
Wally
I mean-
Cox was holding his head. No, I don't.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean,
What's going on
I'm trying to think of some way to make it more like
Yeah.
surreal of a situation, but you probably, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
there's Shaven Camel or something. I don't know. Something completely insane. That's so crazy.
Wow.
That's a good record. I'm gonna have to keep an eye out
Zingers
for
from the
that
Hollywood
one.
Squares, and it just
Zingers.
reminds me of like, you know, being a kid. And you watched Hollywood Squares before dinner, like you know, that was like, you know, prime TV watching
Right.
time, and
Yeah.
you know, and I was a huge baseball fan, and I knew that Peter Marshall's, I think it was his son or his stepson was Pete Lecoq. His name was Pete Lecoq,
Oh, nice.
and he was a first baseman for the Royals.
Oh, really?
And I was always like, Mom, can I meet him because I really want to, you know,
Yeah.
see a ball game. I don't know what it was.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But yeah, dug it.
tricky.
Totally dug it.
This is see, this shit kills me. This is the one of the few reasons I stay in LA. I love the industry, but I love stories like this. You know,
Yeah.
like you don't. There's a certain. It's just very. What's the word I'm thinking of? Visceral. You know.
Yeah.
To have been around that. That's just amazing that you got to grow up around. You got to grow up around kind of the end of cool Hollywood as far
Right.
as I'm concerned. You know, now
Right.
we're kind of like, all right. You know, but that's pretty awesome. That's amazing.
Thank you. I
Like.
I didn't think of anything of being anything special, but I just
Of
sort of
course, of
thought
course.
like. But I do remember like, you know, my mom when I was growing up in the '70s, my mom was in Up in Smoke, the Cheech and Chong movie,
right.
and like stuff
Yeah,
like that, and you know,
Which I love.
it's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love that she's in it.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
yes.
even greater.
Yes, Chong's mom. So I say to people, and they're just like, "Oh my god."
Yeah. No, I'd seen both of those, and I had known about your mom's work and, of course, Ernie's work. And I think I put the two together,
Right.
like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I was like, oh my God. Like, I had this moment, like, where it was like, yeah.
The poem that Percy is about to read to you now, it's called Happy Birthday to a Bookworm. This is one of the real bookworms, by the way, the little ones that you find in books, not the people who read many books. Happy birthday to a bookworm. Oh, hail to thee, voracious young fellow, you go through my books like a dog runs through jello. Bantam editions to you taste like rolls, they must be, for mine are full of your holes. The first time I saw you, so gay and so loose, you were gumming some pages of my Mother Goose. You tune on some Darwin with an appetite fierce, and for your dessert you ate Mildred Pierce.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
you talk to people, and there's like, you know, I say Edie Adams to some people, and they're sort of like, I'd say, well, your parents would know, and then I would sort of say, like, well, she was in the apartment. They go, oh, she's in the apartment, and then I'd say, like, well, she was in Mad World, and they go, oh my God, she was in Mad World. So
Yeah.
those are sort of the gateway drugs to Edie Adams. Like,
Right,
yeah.
exactly, exactly.
But you don't really have to go through the Happy Hooker Goes to Hollywood to actually get to Edie Adams.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not a great film.
No.
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 Let's I think we've covered well, we covered a lot, and we've been here. I don't want to keep you longer than an hour, but where should we tell people where to find the album, where to find you, all this good stuff?
Absolutely. And believe me, I could talk for another hour. Well, there's ErnieKovacs.com. That's our website. There's also EdieAdams.com. If you want to check out the vinyl, you can always, you know, I won't even say iTunes, but you could go to OmnivoreRecordings.com. There's a page for both Ernie and my mom.
Awesome.
And you can pre-order my mom's record, which is coming up, and Ernie's record, which is already out. And then Shout Factory. I think it's shoutfactory.com.
Okay.
And you can get the videos, which we're putting out Volume 2,
Yeah.
which is a three DVD set if you buy it in the stores, 4 DVD if you buy it from Shout Factory.
Really?
With a bonus disc of the show Take a Good Look that Ernie
Yeah.
did.
Oh, okay.
So, and it's got amazing, crazy guests. I mean, like...
Yeah, I'm really excited, because that first Shout package
Yeah.
is absolutely phenomenal.
That's
Oh,
when you
great.
showed me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
Oh, no, the one
No?
that I showed you, I don't think you've seen the actual one. The one you showed me
okay.
was the best of. They put that on DVD
Oh,
format
right.
and the 3 DVDs.
Right.
I mean, I've had that. That came out like...
That was a 90.
Yeah, in 90 they had it on the tapes. I actually have the VHS of that, too.
Oh, wow.
Which is...
There you go.
And then, but then I got that on DVD, but I don't think you've seen this. That's the Shout one has Eugene...
Yeah.
And it has all... I mean, it is just remarkable, the
Well,
stuff that you guys had pulled together for that. It's just amazing.
On this one, too, and it is great. Shout Factory did a fantastic job. And the reason we're putting out a volume 2 is that one did so well,
Yeah.
which we were surprised at. We
Yeah.
were like, we didn't have projections, and they like far exceeded them as far as their sales were. So that was
awesome.
great. But on this one, there's a half-hour pilot that Ernie and Buster Keaton did.
What?
It was literally the
What?
last thing
I'm
Ernie ever
done.
did,
Holy
That's
shit.
it.
called Medicine Man.
Oh
Holy
my
shit.
god.
And it's a pretty amazing time capsule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even if you're like a Buster Keaton fan, you need to buy it because it's like the only place you're ever going to see it, and it's like a brand new print that they actually just redid. And it's really cool.
So here we go. My 2 biggest dorky and like equal to is Buster Keaton. Like my somewhat obsession with.
Yeah.
The other one is Buster Keaton because it's just, and I think the two in some weird TV film, sight gag,
Silent.
manipulation,
Yeah.
silent, kind of that conceptual. And like, to be honest with you, I think Buster Keaton's whole thing is surrealism on film too. Guy
Sure.
jumping off mountainside, flying down and getting hit. But that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
about imagery, and I
Yeah.
get really deep and crazy on it. But I've actually read about this pilot, and that just was
I think
mine.
it's-
I'm like the happiest person in the world now, knowing that because I didn't even think
Great.
it existed.
Yeah, there's a couple of weird things, and there were a few things that we tried to look into that we couldn't find, or there were things that we wanted to do.
Right.
But we had a couple of issues with the Ed Sullivan people with getting his performances, and
Right.
I'll just leave it at that.
Right.
But we did work out a deal with them, and the CBC interview, which is a 17-minute interview, is the only one-on-one like Ernie interview that's in existence.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. And
Yeah.
it's actually shot at his whoever's old house right by his pool,
Wow.
which I remember seeing as I swam
Yeah.
in that pool.
Mhm.
I went
Yeah,
down
that'll
the
be really
slide.
interesting too, because there is a surprisingly little amount, not only of film, but of actual like straight interview. You got me that issue of Time,
Yeah.
which has the interview, but even that, it's very limited. I
Is
don't
it the Life?
or the Life,
Yeah.
the one with him on the cover of the Life. I'm sorry, the Life. He didn't seem like he did as much of that, and even if he did, you always felt like even when I've come across things, and a little of it's almost like a joke in itself.
Yeah.
Like he's not very straight shooting. Like he always
Okay.
has the puns and he has the sharp knockback like answers and kind of
I found on like eBay and stuff. He did a couple of like men's magazines like Cavalier. He did some
Right.
interviews and things like that. And he
Yeah.
actually wrote for Mad Magazine. I don't know if you even know this. He
No.
I
wrote
didn't
for
know
Mad.
that. I didn't know that.
He was, I guess Jack Davis was a fan of Ernie's, and Ernie was a fan of his, and they basically worked out a deal where he would like write, and he did these like insane games. One was called like Gringo, and it was like a game that didn't do anything, but it had all these like, parts to it.
Right,
And
right.
so he wrote for a lot of like Mad and a few
Wow.
other things. But I'll tell you a funny story.
Yeah, yeah.
Ernie came out here after being in New York because essentially there was more money here.
Right,
There was
sure.
Hollywood was he was
Right.
going to make more money in Hollywood than he was going to make in film or television. So he goes on a meeting to meet his new like prospective publicists, and like they're giving him the whole song and dance. We're going to do this for you. We're going to do that for you. You're going to cover that. You're going to be in here. We're going to put you on this TV show. Blah 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 blah. And he said, well, what about like Life magazine? Like, what are the chances of me, being in Life? And they were kind of like, well, I wouldn't shoot for the stars. Like, that's not really something that's probably going to be, And he was like, okay, well, thanks for meeting you. Blah blah blah. And as they're walking out, there's a newsstand. He's on the cover of Life.
Oh wow.
And like he basically he would do that to people. He was just testing them to see like what they would say. And finally, they kind of had to eat crow, and they were like, "Well," and he didn't hire him,
Right,
Of course.
because they
Yeah.
didn't have any faith that they could get it. And he was like, "I got it." Like,
Yeah, I got it. So
Yeah.
obviously it can happen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
Oh, it's so cool.
But there is, by the way, we don't even know if it exists. There is an interview that David Susskind did in the 50s with its one show, Ernie, Rod Serling, and Sheldon Leonard, who was
Holy
one of the
shit.
major 50s comics
Yeah.
Oh my God.
producers.
Yeah.
And they don't know if it exists. So we've been like, if anybody knows where that is, like, that's a little gold mine.
Yeah.
Wow.
What the hell would they talk about?
I don't know, but that blows my mind because Rod Serling's one of my heroes.
Yeah.
So, like, just to
that'd be
listen
like, what the hell would they talk about?
I mean, television and the creation of, like, Playhouse 90. And, I mean, Ernie did some he tried to do some dramatic stuff on TV, too, and it was somewhat successful. But I think just the creation of, this new medium.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, like art. Basically they'd be talking about art.
You're talking about three guys who mastered the form early.
Yeah.
Before anybody else had it figured out and realized that these three guys got it figured out.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I mean, it's one of those things that you just hope, like, someone
one day
turns up.
It's in Grandma Stella Shredinsky's attic or something,
Like the guy who found all the baseball cards in his attic. Did you hear about this?
No.
His grandfather had died like in the 60s or 70s, and the grandmother had lived in this house, and the grandmother just passed away, and they found all like mint condition like tobacco cards from like the turn of the century, and he sold it for like well into the hundreds of thousands, but like probably close to $1 million because nobody had them.
Yeah,
everybody thought they didn't exist.
Yeah.
Wow.
So maybe someone has this in like a barn or somewhere in an attic,
Yep, in the attic.
There you go.
God.
Yeah.
So wait, what year is that supposed to be from?
Probably late 50s.
Right.
Or it would have to be late 50s or early 60s at the very, like 60, 61 at the latest.
Wow. How do you know about it existing? Is it just in a...
There's a log of it. I mean,
Okay.
it did. We know that it did exist.
For sure.
But you know, like so much stuff, like Ernie stuff, some executive just essentially went, I know what to do with this, and got a 18-wheeler and dumped everything in the Hudson River.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that story.
That
all the old
scares me.
kinescopes.
That
they ran out of storage. They did that with all the early NBC stuff.
They were doing that into the 70s. I heard a story
in the river.
When we did this thing at the Paley Center in New York, Keith Oberman was the moderator, and he was a sports guy for years. But he was doing local sports. He was doing Channel 5 here. I remember that. But he told about a story about one of the guys. I think it was ABC. Where he was one of there was Carson had like a local show.
Oh, yeah.
And he basically told them about, guys just like, taking whole racks off the wall and just like dumping them in the trash cans.
Just throwing them in the dumpster.
BBC did the same thing in the 70s and 80s where they wiped all the original Doctor Who's, and they were going to do the same with Monty Python, but Terry Gilliam bought them all before they could do it.
I heard basically, and I saw some interview with him where he essentially was like, they now have to pay me.
To use them. Yeah. And they were going to throw them away.
Gilliam, by the way, is a huge Kovacs fan.
That does not surprise me.
Perfect sense.
He had a great quote in the box set, actually, about how he was like this kid in the 50s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
And at a certain point, we had this thing going called the Ernie Kovacs Award at this thing called the Dallas Video Festival. And we give an award away. And the people that got it were amazing. So I got to meet I got to meet Terry Gilliam. I got to meet Paul Rubens, Joel Hodgson, who's still a good friend, Martin Mull. So I just had these great conversations with people where it was just, and I was just a fly on the wall. I mean, I'm listening to my mom talk about all these people.
She just freaked out because she heard Joel's name.
Oh, Joel. He's a great guy. He's awesome. But there were like random like invitations. Robert Smigel.
Oh, man.
And it just was like one after another where I was constantly like looking forward to it every year. Like, who are you going to meet this year?
This is awesome.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, I'm kind of hoping, is there... I know... Okay, wait, so... Sorry, we talked about this last time, but are there any bios coming out of Ernie, like a book, or is that anything in development?
We're looking into... Ernie wrote 2 books.
Right.
He wrote a book called Zumar, which came out in 1957.
Yeah.
And then he wrote... it was a book that was published posthumously called How to Talk at Gin.
Right.
Which is about playing gin and card games and stuff. And Zumar is fairly... You can still find it, but it's not that easy to find. And we're trying to get that back into print because it's... One review that I read, which I thought was really interesting, is that essentially the whole book is a payoff to the last page. It's almost like a setup for a joke.
Yeah.
And it's a weird way of writing. And evidently, it all started because the executives who were constantly trying to meddle in his business, and he was basically telling them, like, consistently, go fuck yourself, like, this is my show, you're not gonna...
Right.
They sat him down. It was like a brutal winter in New York. They sit him down in a big, office. He's got his, like, briefcase, he's got a hat, he's got an overcoat, and they basically are just sitting there drilling him, like, Ernie, you can't write this stuff on your own, you got to get writers, this is how we want this thing, and they just kept going, and he didn't say anything, and he just listened and listened and listened until finally he just went, can you excuse me for a minute? And I need to get coffee or something, or I need to get a water. And he walked out of the building with just his suit, walked like 50 blocks home, and by the time he got home, supposedly he had the whole outline of the book in his head. And that's essentially what Zumar is about. It's about a guy who works in television, who kind of comes up with this ridiculous contest called Miss Wipola. And he becomes like an overnight sensation because it's a huge hit. And how dumb all the executives are, and how he doesn't even know what he's doing, but like everyone thinks he's God.
Right.
And
Amazing.
it's about how the executives are just morons, essentially. And it's like, is it any different today? Like,
Right.
So it's a fun read. It's a really interesting
That's
book.
pretty good.
It's an odd book though.
You read it, right?
Yeah.
Have you read it? Oh, yeah. Cool.
I got an original copy.
Awesome.
Of course.
Awesome.
I tracked down an original copy.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's a weird read though.
It is.
But it's actually really interesting. And I read it out of fandom.
Yeah.
And I've only read it once, but I've always, like, thinking about it, and I read it like 4 or 5 years ago when I found the copy. And actually when I first moved to LA, I found a copy. And I've always wanted to go back because reflecting on it, it actually, outside of the fact that you have, it's a novel he wrote, it has some, thinking about it, I want to read it again because it has this odd kind of literary value to it in itself, because it is kind of somewhat strangely written, and it kind of almost has these existential, kind of like this weird, light-hearted, goofy, like, Kafkaesque type thing going on because of the absurdity of what's going on.
Right.
And like that occurred to me actually, now that you're mentioning it, I was thinking, I was like, I thought previously I have to reread it because it's a good read though. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's and what's interesting too is that I just read it about a year ago. Again, I'd read it once before, but one of the characters' names is Eileen, and that was my mom's character in one of her Broadway shows, which was, her name was my sister Eileen. That was Wonderful Town.
Right.
And his agent is this guy Marty Comer, but in real life his name was Marty Comer, which was a friend of my dad's, actually.
Right.
Funny. So there's all these little things that I'm reading where it's just like, oh, that's Marty Comer, or that's my mom.
Right, you're identifying.
And there's, my mom writes about it in her book, but essentially he has an affair in the book. And basically my mom said, like, he's telling me he had an affair, but he's not telling me he had an affair. So they had a very tough time when she read the book. He's like, how do you like it? And she was like, fuck you had an affair and you didn't tell me.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, what are you talking about? Honey, come back. And like they had this moment. So there's a lot of personal stuff like going on.
I didn't know it was that like autobiographical. Well, not but like, drawn.
I think he took his experiences and just transferred it on to some other guy.
Right.
But it's very Mad Men. I mean, it's incredibly Mad. It's advertising and television in the 50s.
Right.
I mean, before Mad Men. So.
Right.
But as far as biographies, we're just kind of like, I have this library and this like content. I'm just trying to figure out the best ways to
put
get it
together.
Out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this has just been amazing.
Absolutely.
I could sit and just listen to you talk about this stuff forever. No, this was really good. But everybody, please get this album. I will make sure and put a link up on the website. Are you on Twitter? Is there any other kind of stuff where we can follow you?
Facebook. I think it's real Ernie Kovacs and then real Edie Adams as well. So Facebook.com/real. But these kids with the Twitter, I got to figure it out. No, I'm a Facebook guy. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I still don't understand it. Something about characters. And
Twitter only.
Bird. There's a bird involved.
If you've got a joke, then it's cool. But that's why I'm barely ever on it. If I've got a good joke, I'll put it on there.
I just don't understand it. I don't know.
I don't know.
You have to, after we're done, someone will have to explain it.
Just sit you down.
Yeah.
Like you're my grandfather.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Even though you're my age. That's fine.
I know.
That's fine.
Well,
Storm, Josh, this has been awesome.
Thank you. I loved it.
Thank you so much for being here.
Had a great time.
Everybody, listen to Ernie Kovacs, watch Ernie Kovacs. I'm so nervous. I'm sorry. Give me a second. Listen to Ernie Kovacs, watch Ernie Kovacs, have your mind blown, and as always, have a good thing.
There you go.
What with so much in the newspapers today of rockets and so forth, I thought I would write you a short poem about rockets and so forth. It's so hard to rhyme Cape Canaveral, so I concentrated on another aspect. This one I call Ode to Sam, the taller of the two monkeys, on the occasion of the projected isolation in a rocket on their first flight into outer space, by Percy Dovetonsils. Oh, Sam, I hate to see your dear face when you discover 1,000,000 miles in space, as you lean toward your companion with gestures so tender and learn your friend, too, is masculine gender.
Comedy on Vinyl is a production of Stolen Dress Entertainment. It is produced by Mike Warden and is hosted and edited by Jason Klamm. Visit stolendress.com to listen to our other podcasts, read our blogs, read our tweets, watch our videos, and read our books. Please subscribe on iTunes, rate us highly, and write your reviews. You can follow us on facebook.com/comedyonvinyl and Twitter @comedyonvinyl. He found a pair of overalls at the bottom of the pot. Him Nolan, he got ripping mad. His eyes were bulging out. He jumped up.